I appreciate that. My name is Kendall King. For those who don't know, I am the CFO and Head of Partnerships here with DreamCon. And this specific panel is a panel that I brought in back when I started with them back in 2021. And it was to talk about money, because we previously didn't really have these type of discussions here at DreamCon. And so it was important to really foster this when you have so many people, the creators, the managers, the agents, the accountants, the tax, people, the lawyers, here present, but we're not actually taking advantage of that time. And I know people want to have fun, but I know also people want to make money. So that's where this conversation kind of originally started. Over time, the panel has been constructed of having industry professionals who do the actual job, along with one creator who can speak to it in the actual, pursuit of monetizing their content. Okay, so I'm gonna just let them introduce themselves. So first up is Matt. Yeah, Matt Osborne. Let's give a hand.
Matthew Osborne. I recently left United Talent Agency. I'm at a shop called ISO now.
Can y'all hear me?
Everybody hear me? There we go. Okay. I recently left UTA. I'm at a shop called ISO now. Started with a few partners, and I had the good fortune of working with RDC World, with Kai Cenat, my guys from AMP, with Black Boy Max, Rakai, Monty Tuhati, Reem, the whole crew, Kello, and I kind of help out. I'm a licensed attorney. I also was a talent agent for a while. Had some management experience, so I just kind of help out wherever I can.
So manager, agent, and lawyer all wrapped in one, and I'm sure there's a lot of other things you can add to that too. But obviously you can see the caliber when you listen to the type of the clients he actually works with, which is a lot of the talent that we all kind of look to and look up to, and kind of want to get to. So he's definitely somebody to listen to. Obviously now, Mr. Cleo Thomas.
Good morning, everybody, man. How's your DreamCon been so far? My name is Cleo Thomas, aka Mr. Slick Living Man. This is my 5th year coming out to DreamCon, and it's a blast every single time. Actor, content creator, streamer, host with the most. Yeah, the list is kind of long, man. But it's been I'm really excited to be on this panel and get a chance to kind of share my perspective of the industry, how it's changing, and the financial literacy of it all, and how important it is. So yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Love that. And Cleo, I think we kind of came in actively working DreamCon around the same time.
Okay.
And it's been again, I've worked across with all the talent, by far, tip-top tier, S-tier talent to work with.
Thank you.
And just a really just great human being to work with. So yeah, it's my guy.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that, brother.
All right, Patrick. Let's go. Tell them what you do.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Mboimana. I'm the founder of Youth, a non-alcoholic functional beverage brand. Primarily, my background is in digital marketing. So for over the last decade I have my own digital marketing agency, Avon Level Management, where I do digital marketing for music artists as well as record labels. Some of the artists I've done digital marketing for is Rihanna, Friday, Coco Jones, a lot of different people like that, and I also manage talent.
One of the talent, tell them, because they might know.
Yeah, and one of the talent I managed for over 2.5 years was Jay Cinco. He's a Twitch streamer.
All right, that's clap. Can we clap? I don't know if we clap for him. Thank you. And now Jasmine, please.
Hi everybody, my name is Jasmine Haji Momin. I'm known online as the Creator's Tax Strategist. I'm honored and blessed to be the tax strategist and accountant for RDC World and DreamCon, as well as many of you guys know me as Berlizzi's tax strategist and accountant as well. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, clap. And so with that, you notice that 3 of us all said kind of the same talent, and you can see that when you get to a certain level as talent, you do need to build out a team that we all do different things. So me, Matt, and Jasmine all work, with RDC in some shape, form, or fashion to help them execute the things that they're doing. And so with that being said, I'll start with you, Cleo, first. How do you know, even on that team aspect, how do you know and when did you know, all right, I'm making money, I need to have a team together, you know, and who is part of that team for you?
Man, I started my career very early. I told my mom I wanted to be an actor when I was 5, and then we booked, I think, my first commercial at 5 was for McDonald's. So full circle moment to be working with them here at DreamCon this year. Really, really cool thing for that. And then we went on to, you know, do television shows, and then there was films, and then continuing there. So of course, having my mom right involved with everything, she's the one, you know, till this day, the woman on the books looking over everything, making sure everything clears. You know, I have gotten a few phone calls like, how much did you spend on Pokemon cards? Yeah. Where is Mom? Hi, Mom. She's there. Yeah.
Hey, let's cover it up for here. What you call that, as a manager or as a mother?
Oh, that's Mom. She's Mom here.
Okay, yeah.
She's like overseer.
What's up with these Pokemon cards? Too much.
Yeah. She called me out on that one. And the biggest thing for us though was to really. My mom looked at what my passion was going to be, and she wanted to make sure that through this journey in life that I was going to be taken care of, because she immediately understood that it's an up and down business. And we didn't have anyone to really give us any gain anyway. We were just kind of running and gunning as we were going. And I can share this story. We did the film Walking Tall with The Rock in Vancouver, Canada. And this is before we had formed our LLC, our production company. So I was paid my rate, but I was also taxed twice for United States tax and Canadian tax. So what it would look like is what my rate was supposed to be on paper was not that by the time we got back. So once my mom saw that, she was like, okay, time to switch these things up, take these things a little bit more seriously, start doing a lot more deep dives into how we can make sure my legacy would be taken care of.
I love that. So, and it actually is a common theme that it has to hurt first before, like, some people make a decision to get the right people in place or start putting the right things in place. And so I moved to you, Matt. With your experience and all the creators that you work with, is that something you also see that, you know, it has to hurt first, you have to convince them? Like, how was that process for, you know, you connecting with talent and talent really taking it seriously to have someone like any of us on the stage, you know, in their corner?
Yeah, I think what generally happens with a lot of creators, and you know, I often make the joke that for years, like a talent agent was a person who had to be at the other end of the phone, because how else would you get a whole celebrity? But now, like, everybody's got a cell phone in their pocket. You got Instagram DMs, you got Twitter DMs, all those kind of things. And what generally happens is when you're in that early stage in your career, you're starting to get things coming into your inbox. You're getting that inbound, and all talent talk. And you know, the hurt is, I negotiated this deal myself, and then I talked to my friend who's got a manager or an agent or an attorney or somebody else, you know, kind of helping them out think about these things, who may have a little bit more market awareness. And I realized I got screwed on this deal. And then it's like, okay, who do you work with? You know, they start asking their friends, who do you work with? Who do you work with? And that kind of word of mouth kind of starts to spread, and that's how often talent comes to representation. Is, you know, I heard you were great from a friend, or I saw that you took care of this, you did this deal for somebody, and I was really interested in working with that brand. But it's that first, like, recognizing that, damn, my friend did like 10 times better than me on this deal. Like, I just don't know what I don't know. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that you don't know what you don't know, that hurt, people talk, you figure that out. And so, Patrick, in that instance, how do you make sure you do enough? Because, you know, not being at a UTA, right, or in the past, right, where you might not have that, like, that data analytics and that understanding for these different people, and that sometimes a creator might not be a good fit for a UTA or a big talent agency or, you know, anything like that at that moment. So you have individuals like you have, like, you know, I would say smaller management and marketing companies to help them. How do you show up for your client to make sure that they get all they should be getting, you know, and not, you know, still getting, you know, the lower part of the field?
I think when you have like a smaller or a boutique management agency, the best way to like show up for your client is to be intentional and use your time, right? You have to actually talk to them, be with them at events, actually do outreach to brands, figure out what their vision is, what their goal is, what do they actually want, and go out and get that for them. So you might not have all of the resources, but what you do have is the ability to build a personal relationship, because with a lot of the bigger agencies that have a roster of talent that's all like, probably like high level talent, they're not able to really have that personal relationship and really see what this person's path is and what they actually want out of their career. They might just be pitching a lot of their roster to the same deals, and it might not really align. So I think it's really about using that time to build a personal relationship and directly get their vision across.
So,
Yeah, and I actually want to go to you next, Jasmine, because when those deals are being built, obviously dollars on the other side of it, right? How do you work with your talent to the same point? Not only necessarily to make sure they get the same amount, but how does the money make sense for them? Because they could be getting the best part of that deal, and this is maybe the most that they can get, or the company had allocated for it. But how does that align, and how do you work with your talent to make sure that it's what they deserve, for the value that they're providing?
for sure. I think a really important part of this to focus on is what you mentioned about it having a boutique agency. I think especially when you work with people's money, it's really important to make sure that you are, aligned with what their goals and their visions are, so that you are able to help them maneuver the money that they receive to ultimately achieve that goal that they have. So I didn't mention this in the beginning of my introduction, but I am the founder and CEO of my own tax and accounting advisory firm called Moment Tax Services. And so, I have lots of creator clients, of course, but I also work with lots of attorneys and dentists and doctors and lots of different industries. And in that, I've learned, working very closely with each of those people and owners in those industries, that everyone has a different path. Everyone has a different money experience. And so some make more, some make less. But the more or the less that they make, more and less is different for different people depending on what their goals and their visions are. So I like to make sure that they are aligned on what kind of money they even want to make. Some people are, excited about doing lots of brand deals with companies and making brand deal money. Other people are like, no, I'd rather just stick to my own thing of gaming or streaming or kind of staying in a different lane. So I like to make sure that I know what their goals are in life, and that we direct the money that they're earning, number one, to avoid paying as little taxes as they legally can. And once we have the legality of things covered in their structure, Cleo mentioned that he made some money and then had to get an LLC. So I think one of the things that I do best is in that discovery session, not only do I understand what are they already doing and what is their structure, or more often than not, lack of structure, I align that with learning what are their goals and the vision that they have for what they're doing, and I just make sure all of that works well, in one. The legal structure, the company structure, the money structure, but then also in alignment with their goal and vision of what they want to do with all that they're working for.
No, and that's really good. And let's see it from the other side, Cleo. So when you got the people behind you kind of trying to balance what makes sense for you, and based on your goals and dreams, how do you make those decisions? How do you decide yes or no for certain for things?
We're our own business. We are literally our walking, talking business. As content creators, as producers, directors, everything is now a budget. Everything is now, trying to make sure we don't get in the red, trying to stay above budget as best we can. You're gonna get very close to that line, I think, quite a lot.
Sometimes you buy too many Pokemon cards. It's okay. We don't have to talk
Sometimes
about it.
Pokemon cards are ripping past.
Those are an investment. Those are an investment.
Those are investments, yes. And Pokemon card collectors in the building?
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about trading some stuff here. But yeah, it's you're trying to overall make sure that you're creating great content, right, to put out there. But as you get bigger and your goals get bigger, you want to be able to, get a higher quality product out there. You're gonna have to spend money. And I think I said this 2 years ago when I was here at DreamCon. I talked on a panel and said, when you get your first check, whether it's from the YouTube or TikTok or your first brand deal, do not go and spend that one. Keep that one so you can see the fact that you had it, you've done it, and reinvest it right back into yourself. Figure it out. Figure it. If you need to have a clipper, if you need to have an editor, if you need a better mic, if you need a better camera, do not spend that one. please reinvest that very first one to you. Yeah.
And as an accountant, CPA myself and the clients that I manage and deal with, I also feel that same thing, but a lot of times that I see is, having to help them figure out, am I going to pay my bills first, or am I going to reinvest in myself, right? So what do you say this is for anybody who wants to jump in your experience, what do you say to the creator who's like, well, I need to spend that on this is how this is how I live, and so, or you know what, I've been working so hard, I need this, to keep my frame of mind, I need to, make it, do this particular thing. Like, what's that mindset, advice that you can provide there?
I'd love to say something about this. I think I've said this every year on stage speaking on this panel. Separating your bank accounts from the get-go, having separate business accounts and having separate personal accounts will really help you have a good picture of what that money spending pattern is like. Because if you can at least show yourself with numbers and have records later for taxes of how much money you're making in your business and how much of that you're taking and putting into your personal bank account to spend, you already have a better idea of how much you need to spend personally and in what areas. So when you get an amount of money and you're like, okay, what am I supposed to do with it? If you don't know how much you need for XYZ in your personal life or ABC in your business life, you're gonna make a frivolous decision with what to do with that money that you get. But if you have at least, like to your point of a budget, you are a walking budget, you're the business. If you have a sample budget of some kind of how much you spend in your personal life and how much you spend in your business life, you'll absolutely make a better decision with what to do with the money that comes in.
Okay. And then this panel is called How to Monetize Your Content. And if obviously somebody wants to add on to that, they can. But I would say this panel is called How to Monetize, and so I'm sure a lot of people are here asking that exact question, like how do you actually do it, right? So first question, and again, anybody who wants to answer, is what are the typical routes to monetization for a content creator that people already know about, but maybe some things that they don't really think about and don't really, look to, get into?
So prior to getting into talent representation, I spent 2.5 years working at Twitch, working kind of on retaining creators at Twitch, and worked a lot with like the monetization product team on what we were rolling out for creators. I think if I could recontextualize or reframe the name of the panel, I think what we have to think about is how do you monetize your passions, right? Because DreamCon exists not because of a piece of content, but because of a passion. And the thing that undergirded a lot of Mark's passion, or a lot of his content, he also saw that, like, wait, other people are passionate about this, and I can do this, right? And I think when you watch content about which people are not passionate, that's when the chat is spamming L cash grab and things like that. So I think when we talk about monetizing passions, you start to see the pie get a lot bigger. So I got a question from somebody at a conglomerate that owns a bunch of digital content distribution services the other day, and they said, what does that pie look like? Like if you looked at the pie chart and you saw the circle, it's like, all right, you've got your call it AdSense and Twitch ad revenue, your organic platform revenue, subs, bits, ads, all those kind of things. And then ancillary to that, you've got like syndication revenue. I take that content and either like sell it to like a Future, one of those kind of, Spotter, that kind of thing, or I'm putting it now on fast channels, that kind of stuff. But as you start to get further away from just the content, you start to think about ideas. How do I monetize my ideas, right? And then you start getting into merch, but it may not just be t-shirts related to your brand name. Like Ippy once told me, I was like, why, like RDC, like you guys don't do a ton of like merch with your name on it. He's like, man, our community doesn't want to wear another dude's name on their chest, right? But it's like they will wear something that's about an idea. They will wear a DreamCon shirt, an Anime House shirt, something like that. And so and then you get into like owned products, right? Like, so how many creators, like AMP has Tone, things like that, where it's about, we really care about this vertical in the market, and we talk about it in our own content, and it feels organic and something we like, and we think our audience will follow us into the market to grab that.
Rally around it.
And so it's like, now you start to really see like the pie gets bigger because what the creator is willing to share with their audience gets bigger, and kind of what passions they're willing to kind of put into the market get bigger. And so, yeah, I mean, I think those are the really big kind of main ones. You know, merch, I think is in. I would include in there like the CPG stuff, but yeah.
Patrick, yes.
I think when you're starting to ask yourself how to monetize your content, first you should be intentional about where you currently are and where you want to be as you're deciding how to do that. And so if you're just like, okay, I want to make money like the fastest way possible, you can start even without followers, right? So you can do UGC content. There's a lot of brands that are looking for people to pay just to post, not even post, you don't even have to post UGC content. You can just make content for the brand that they're gonna pay for and run ads on, and you give them ad rights to it. So you can do that without followers. There's a TikTok shop where you can make money as an affiliate creator. You only need maybe like 1,000 to 5,000 followers. So it just really depends on what you wanna do. So if you want to get more on like the creator side and you want a long-term brand, you know, you can do, of course, the brand deals. You can think about how can I create a product that I can sell to people. If you're a fitness creator, you might not even need to like have a bunch of followers. You can be a personal trainer, or you can sell a fitness, like you can do like a fitness course or a diet plan that you sell, like digital products. So there's a lot of different ways that you can go about monetizing your content. It just really depends on what your goals are.
Yeah, and I see that a lot too, because that's literally my whole job, is figuring out ways to make more money. How can we squeeze this as much as we can? You know, you can see here at DreamCon too, right? It's like every year we get bigger, and every year there's another opportunity that I can look to try to, monetize, to try to sell, to try to, enhance an experience and figure that stuff out. But it's the same DreamCon, but it's just a new way to be able to, peel the orange. I was about to say skin a cat, but I won't say that. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there's one that probably doesn't get talked about, especially here, and that's being an Amazon influencer review, Amazon reviewer, Amazon influencer. I have a couple of clients that are Amazon influencers. My sister is actually the biggest one. And I mean, it takes time to build it, but I think we all buy so much stuff on Amazon. And if you're just even around, like my sister is just so funny. Wherever we go, she'll like, did you buy that off of Amazon? Can I take a little review of that? Can I take a look? She'll like take a 30-second video of anything and then put it up, and she gets paid in so many ways from that one video that she took, like commissions from when that thing sells, the seller paying her to make the video, she gets everything under the sun sent to her for free on Amazon. Like, it's almost like every time I see her, she's like, hey, you need anything from Amazon? I'm like, no, I don't really need anything from Amazon. Can you imagine like having just unlimited anything you want from Amazon? That's my sister, she's the Amazon plug. But anyway, I say that to say, that's one of those where, again, you don't need to have, like UCG, you don't need to have a community, you don't need to have a following, you don't need to have an audience, you just need to have the grit and the tenacity to just continue and record items and get your number of videos that you have up on your Amazon Creator Central up. And yeah, just every few 20 cents, 30 cents, $1 on every purchase that's made adds up. It's a really good one.
Yeah, and I think that, to that point, and I don't know if people have clocked it, but we've talked about at least 5 to 6 different ways that you can monetize, your passion, which I'm thinking about changing that next year. So,
Can I add one more?
We're gonna cut out that part where he said to do it, and I'm just gonna change it.
Can I add one more? Patreon, right? Like when we talked about, you have the UGC side, but then also when you're building your brand, you're building the community that's following the passion with you, like giving exclusive looks at things through Patreon. We've seen so many creators be able to live quite comfortably just based off of giving exclusive looks behind the scenes, only having a select few people who have paid to be able to see these things. So Patreon is another one to add to that list for sure, as you're building out your brand.
So memberships, that's Patreon. We talked about ad revenue. We talked about, I don't think we actually even, brand deals, I guess in a little bit. Brand deals. We've talked about, you mentioned doing actual work. So consulting, being a fitness person, a trainer. We talked about affiliate revenue, not to mention the value that you're getting from in-kind, and then the affiliate, not the affiliate again, but the licensing that you mentioned earlier. Those are a lot of different distinct ways that you don't need to be you don't need to have 1 billion followers to do like half of that. I think a lot of people who look at the brand deals, they look at, the products too. I actually bought Tone, so tell them that. I got the vanilla deodorant. It was actually smells good. Yeah, he's doing it right now. It's a lot of different ways. But one thing I don't think anybody mentioned, but is all glaring us in his face, is events. Like this itself is another way to monetize. And it's one of the things that leads to my next question is a lot of these other ways that have been mentioned about monetizing has been through other people's platforms. You don't have the keys to Amazon, you don't have the keys to Twitch or to Patreon or to YouTube or anything like that. So at any point in time, they could shut down. I always just remember Lil Boosie, when Instagram went down, and he's just like, Mark Zuckerberg, turn it back on. Come on, man. And it's like, it was hilarious, but it's really true in the sense that, you do not have power over that because you don't own the actual platform. So, question for anybody, if all the platforms disappeared right now, how would you all as, managers and agents and everything like that, how would you support your clients to continue making money? And then Cleo, if all the platforms disappear right now, what would you do? Obviously, you're a little different because you already have a whole lot of other stuff. But still, if these platforms disappear, what would you do? What's the next step for you?
I invested in MailChimp a very long time ago to be able to keep every single email that's ever been interactive with me since 2016. So it is a very long list. So email, look into MailChimp. It allows you to store, like I just mentioned, any emails that bought a product from me, that signed up for a Google Doc that I had put out to get voting. Yeah, MailChimp, that's how I would do it. That allows me to still be connected to the people who want to be connected with me, not through social media. So yeah, look into MailChimp. And I know there's other things, there's other ones out there, but MailChimp is the one I would use.
So
Yeah.
he just mentioned that he has access to those people. That if Instagram decided to stop going, if Twitch decided, we're done for the week, he can still access his audience because he has a direct contact line through them that is not controlled by another platform. And so that's important because a lot of people don't. A lot of people just log on to, Twitch. They complain about getting shadow banned. They complain about getting, deprioritized, and as if they're entitled to this particular thing, not realizing that you're only entitled as much as the platform will give you entitled to, because they own all of that data. And so that's one way, obviously making sure that you have it, but if you all else can go into what would you do with that afterwards? Like, how do you have them create money with just those emails, especially when they're not even used to, seeing anything outside of that?
I mean, only that direct relationship with your community, with your audience is like, that's the holy grail, right? I mean, I think there are two ways to kind of treat that, right? Like, there's the good side of the forest and the dark side of the forest, that like, there are some people who just fleece their audience, and we've heard about creators like that it's just like every 2 weeks you're soaking you with some new thing. But I think to the extent that you are, a friend to your audience, and I think a lot of creators, I think a lot of the most successful creators are fans first, who there is some level of fandom that pushed them or that drove them into wanting to get into this, into saying like, I love, whatever it is I'm watching, whatever it is I'm listening to, whatever it is I'm seeing, and I want to do that thing. I mean, like, I imagine you watched something at 5 that made you say like, holy shit, I want to do that. Like, I have to be an actor.
Yeah, it was actually a Goofy movie, and it was Powerline.
And so,
It was that.
right, like, I think when creators keep that in mind, and they that innocence, that feeling of fandom, and they treat their fans with respect, owning that direct relationship can be incredibly powerful because, you know, you again, like getting down to that, to the first principle of passion, that you are sharing something, whether it's a merch drop or, you know, I'm launching a new product, and with the powers of email, with the power of, like, there's not a ton in 2026. Unfortunately, there's not like a ton of that. What are you gonna be outside of DreamCon, like with flyers handing them out, I suppose, like with a street team.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say though, like also, and don't boo me off the stage, but like flipping the question a little bit into like, I think if we think of like just one platform, if somebody shut down tomorrow Instagram or shut down YouTube, but the rest remain, I think one of the things we saw at Twitch oftentimes in the early streaming days was you would have somebody who's really powerful on one platform, and to the neglect of the others. And I think more and more what you're starting to see is people figure out how to create, like, if you think about those like circle, like in sports where they show like how good is their passing, how good is their, you know, scoring, like people are trying to get their stats much more into a circle. And it's because like if you can have a great stream and you chop that up and you put it on YouTube as a, you know, now all of a sudden you're in the AdSense and you're making AdSense and you're in the algorithm, and that's driving people back to the Twitch, but then you're also getting clipped. You're putting those clips on TikTok, you're putting those clips on Instagram, on X, and like you're starting to drive audience to the platforms on which you're the most, where you can monetize them again, and you're pushing the Patreon on your streams, and it really becomes this really cool like linear chain. And if one of those dropped out, or even two or three, you're still able to sustain on those other ones because you've watered those.
Diversification versus concentration.
Absolutely,
right?
it's critical. Like in this day and age, it's critical for creators.
Oh yeah, I think that was a really good question. It got me thinking, what would I do in this if that was to happen? So with me, a lot of the talent that I worked with and managed were younger skewing as far as like with their audiences. So how I would tackle it to build out an email and SMS list, which I think would be the most valuable, is I'll partner with schools and have them throw pep rallies with the artists coming, but having the students have to RSVP to come. So we can collect the emails and SMS lists. Once we do a lot of different schools in a lot of different markets and cities, then I would have these talents throwing their own events, like, you know, going on tour, doing their own events where we can monetize off of, but also leveraging that audience and data with brands to do brand sponsored events, and also even just send out their products via like that SMS list or the email list, basically to have these people that they've built out check out their product. So I think those are the ways that I would kind of build out that monetization.
Love that. You want to add anything to that?
Sure. So I think uniform in line with what you guys said, one of the most important things to be able to respond appropriately in a situation like that would be based on what assets and resources you have when something like that happens. So SMS list, email marketing, things like that. And I think the way that I help my clients maybe prepare for an unforeseen situation like that is by making sure we're planning and strategizing properly before that has happened. So gathering those assets, having those resources available to you. So using your money wisely before that happens is really important. So if you are tax planning properly, not overpaying in taxes, contributing to investment accounts and things like that, that work hand in hand and stopping you from overpaying in taxes, but also securing your future, having trusts and, just estate planning, tax planning, things like that in order. When something like that happens, I'm sure I could pivot the conversation into helping them figure out what they would need to do next, although that's not my specialty. I would say like my best and, way of participating in a situation like that would be to help them be most prepared for if something like that happened to them.
Yeah, so it's getting ahead of it instead of waiting for that time and like, oh, what do I do? Yeah, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And that's a good point, because having somebody on your team that does different things, because for you, like you're like, hey, I'm gonna get you prepared, so that don't even happen. And if it does happen, we got plan A and B. And I also love to have those conversations, but I know for me, I'm more on like, all right, the world just blew up. What do we do now? Pivoting when everybody's in chaos and running around. It's like, all right, lock in.
I think that's one of the reasons why you and I make such a great team working with DreamCon together on the back end with accounting and money and finances, because I think like I help hold down the day-to-day of the accounting and tax and all the stuff that's a little bit more boring and nuanced and systematic and routine and just kind of keeps happening the same way. Things to look out for, and if this happens, we have to do that. And like you said, your area and specialty is definitely like, what do we do now? Or we have these extra resources, what do we do with them to grow them and stuff like that, so, yeah.
Yep. And so we do have some mics in the crowd. If you have any questions, just line up. I know like sometimes, you know, we want to make sure that the questions that you all specifically have are being asked. So we'll give you some time to line up, and I want to do some quick like fire, you know, rapid fire like questions. So just try to keep it like a one, two, 3 word answer. What's the most underrated revenue stream for creators? Whoever's first. Most underrated. You can start with the most, let's start with, for me, I think the most underrated revenue stream is probably, I feel like I'm a little biased, but probably events. And like, I think they don't understand like what you can really do when you own something. Because the event or the, you know, like I think a lot of people, even the meet and greet is technically an event at the end of the day, right? But from that one thing, you could do so many other things from it. So I think that's really underrated. And I think even in this time, like today, people crave in-person connection and everything. And I think it's really, really important to have. You see, you know, DreamCon, Streamer University, you know, the ball, like there's a lot of different things that people are craving and wanting to do. So I think that's one of the underrated. And I know I told y'all like 1 or 2 words, but.
I agree.
He's right, yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
right.
yeah.
He's right, that's what it is. Yeah, it
Oh.
really stems off. Like that one thing really stems off and adds to everything else. I agree.
I would say for me, commission, I think a lot of people, it's very underrated, but if you can actually move and sell product, you can make a lot more money just taking a commission rather than taking a flat brand fee. Because ideally for the brand, the whole point is to like be profitable on what they're paying you. So if you are confident in yourself that you can move product, you'll probably make more taking commission than just taking a flat fee.
Okay. Go ahead.
TikTok Shop and fast channels.
Okay, bet. Yeah, that's the point that's really growing. And a lot of people don't even know about fast channels. So that's a whole nother conversation. Last one's like everybody lined up already. Is what, and you know, if y'all don't want to answer, y'all don't have to. Y'all got partnerships and stuff. But what's one platform you think that people should be on if you had to choose one?
YouTube, that's the one that's surviving everything. That is the one that is, when they did the numbers right, it is more watched than any other streaming platform, right? And it's the one that there is no paywall in order to watch pretty much anything anyway. So if you are not on YouTube, if you are not putting out long form content, they want YouTube, in my opinion, YouTube is Hollywood at this point, so
Yep.
YouTube.
They just said it surpassed Netflix. Like the viewers on YouTube just surpassed
Yeah,
Netflix.
surprise Netflix too, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what's the game? The Squid Game? That's Squid Game. What else? What is on Netflix? It's like a heavy hit.
Yeah.
What else?
The next heavy hitter for Netflix is
Stranger Things.
Stranger Things.
Yeah. What else? What's another big Netflix one? Right?
Pop Demon Hunters.
K-pop Demon Hunters. Yeah. It's a heavy one.
That's
I don't watch TV, so I don't know.
I'm on YouTube.
Yeah.
All the
Yeah.
time.
I
Yeah.
literally don't watch TV.
Yeah. In WWE. That's right.
Yeah, wrestling.
See,
Live events. You know, that's another thing. Okay, so we got people at the mic. You look closest to your mic, so go ahead.
Hello? Oh, sorry. Hi. I do have a question in terms of UGC and perpetuity. A lot of people talk about UGC, but I guess it's not addressed, or maybe I don't hear it enough, that when you do UGC, you are giving over your perpetual rights to this content. Is it worth it if you are giving over your rights forever to something?
I think it still can be worth it because it depends on the content you're making. If you're promoting a product, you don't necessarily need rights to that content. But also, you can structure deals where they get 90-day ad usage rights, or even like 6 months. And if they use it longer than that, they have to pay you more. Or if they make a certain amount of money off of this, then you know, like you can structure it a certain way. Or you can even ask for like commission. You can ask for a lot of different things so that it's not in perpetuity. It doesn't always have to be structured like that, especially when you have leverage. So I do think it can be still very beneficial.
Thank you.
Hey guys, so this is more of like a content type question. What advice would you have if, for example, let's say you have a piece of content that kind of blows up or goes viral, like millions of views, whatever, but it's not necessarily like, you weren't like planning for that to happen, and then also like, you weren't really doing much before that, but you want to leverage this in a way that kind of helps you out in the long term, even if it's not necessarily what your passion isn't this one video, it's more like, you know, whatever the regular content creation stuff is. But how would you leverage that type of situation?
While you think about it, I can just kind of prelude it. So essentially, you got a viral video that you didn't think was going to be viral, and now, but it's not necessarily something maybe you're aligned with, or like, oh, I didn't think that was going to be the thing.
Right.
How do I continue, you know, with that momentum? My first thought, and then again, open to anyone, is at that point in time, understand how you can connect to it, understand why it went viral, do the data, like what's the engagement like, why are people engaging with it, and then just apply that same method to what you actually want to do, and see if that works, and then you can see if you can replicate that. But that was my first thing, but anybody?
I was just gonna say real quick, I literally just had a client that had a couple of videos go viral, millions and millions of views, and she gained 16,000 followers on Instagram as a result of it. And it actually had everything else on her IG decline thereafter, because going viral and the 16,000 followers that she got were not in line with her brand of her daily content and what she regularly posts and what she's regularly about. So it actually hurt her even more, because all those new followers weren't continuing to engage or watch and do that. So the algorithm was like, oh, you have all these followers that are not really doing nothing for you here. So again, like literally back to what Kendall said, you gotta know what made it pop off the way that it did, so you can lean into that part of it, because that whole video in and of itself is probably not gonna do for you what you intended for it to do with the rest of what you do on your channel regularly.
Right.
Can I ask, when you say viral, on your channels or on third-party channels?
On
Like, did it get clipped and
on
shit?
like my TikTok, I guess,
Just off of yours? Okay.
and
Yeah,
like
I mean,
YouTube, yeah.
you know, you leveraging third party, right? Like Clipper, like, you know, Cleo Ray's idea, Clippers earlier. It's how do you maximize the amplification of that viral moment? And then in the background, right? Unless it's something that you weren't like when you say you weren't aligned with it, was it like you?
Oh, I just mean it's not like I spend my entire time like, it was just like a clip of me doing something, but like it's typically like I'm typically like gaming and stuff like that. I'm not like talking in a way that like makes something go viral.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Kendall's point, if it's something that you think is another, if it's something you think could be another content avenue for you, I think what it's shown is that there is an audience for what that thing was. And so the learning from that is like, do I shift the Overton window a little bit on what I do? So like, it doesn't subsume the content that I'm already doing, but it may be another arrow in your quiver to sort of continue to grow your audience and tap in with a new community that maybe you just didn't know you had, right? So.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you. We do got 10 minutes left. I wanna like try to see if we can get through as much as we can, as much of the questions, so please forgive me if I'm like making sure we keep going. But please ask your question.
Good afternoon. My name is Dub Seas, but online I go by the name of Captain Slandon. And my question was, at one point I was monetized, but as one of my favorite creators says, don't be afraid to get a job. So when the money started going down, I got a job and I kind of fell out of doing content. I wanted to ask, how do you get back into that state of being remonetized?
Leo, have you experienced that?
I have not been not monetized, but
I've never been.
yeah, I've never been
consistent.
demonetized. But hearing his story, man, like I understand what you're saying. Is that you're trying to turn the machine back on, right? And there have been different requirements, I think, now that have been met for TikTok and for YouTube and for Twitch. So it's the consistency of it. Like just now when he was talking about how, do you remember when people used to talk about saying like, okay, well I have to upload a YouTube video, then I gotta put up an Instagram video, then it has to be on Twitter, and finally like, people would be like, that's a lot of work. That's how we used to think, and yet literally that is what everyone is doing. Like we had to just upgrade our mindset, like really drop and just keep running this machine. So it's staying consistent. stay consistent at it, brother. Like, and I don't know which platforms you are trying to monetize on or get remonetized on, but look into those, man, and push through it. If that's your passion for it, push through it.
Yep.
Lock in, brother. I look forward to seeing more from you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so my question is on something that Jasmine said, and to put it to words, so you said like you help your clients based on like the goals that they have. So my question is, how do you make goals for monetization on content? Now, right now I'm trying to like hit the basics. Like I have to hit, like for TikTok creator program, like you have to have 10K followers. So I was like, let me just focus on like getting my followers to engage with my content, make sure I'm growing my platform. But once you hit those marks, how do you set goals for monetization, if that makes sense?
That's a great question. I think it's really important to know what your goal post is. And what I mean by that is, what is your goal and what is that goal post? So if we know it's to afford an apartment, if we know if it's to get a down payment for a house, whatever that it might be, you have to know what the numbers are for everything. There is nothing you can do in being a business owner or even for your personal life if you don't know what the numbers are. So earlier when I said you have to know how much you need as a person to live, that way you know, okay, you know, a lot of people make goals and they just have this thing that they want to reach, but they don't know exactly what it takes to get there. So knowing your numbers really helps with that. So again, like if you're trying to afford $2,500 a month to live a comfortable life, you know that number is $2,500 a month. Now you know all the other criteria that you have to meet to maybe get to $2,500 a month. I would say you have to define what the goal is in terms of money, and then all the other criteria that has to be met to get to that is criteria that you just mentioned you're aware of.
Yep, and
Know your numbers.
But one thing is, you're looking at that one program, right? And oh, I need 10,000 followers. But to her point, what's your goal first? You set how much you need. So if you need $2,500, you don't necessarily need to be in a TikTok creator program for that. So you can monetize before 10,000 followers. So don't get trapped in somebody else's thresholds and things. Figure out what yours is, and then get to that, and then build on top. But thank you for that question.
I know this might be like a subjective question, but how do you know when to go from just streaming as a hobby to when you turn into a business?
I think that, again, I'm just trying to make sure we get everybody's questions. I think that you'll know when you don't have to work another job. That's when you know you can make that full transition. However, content creation is a business. At the moment you start making it a business, the moment you have it in your mindset to make it a business. So if that's what you're doing, you're making money from it, it's always better to have a business than a hobby, I'll tell you that. Tax-wise. So you have a business when you start, really putting that time, you're making money, and you're made that idea and that plan to move forward. But again, to your point, it is subjective to you. You have to set that same goal, just like Jasmine mentioned. Thank you.
All right, Heroes and Stuff on YouTube. I'm a tech reviewer on YouTube, so I understand why affiliate marketing was up there when it came to how to monetize your content. But one thing I didn't hear was like AdSense and like getting paid per view. Is that like third tier on how to get paid for y'all? I'm asking because I'm trying to also grow on Instagram. I'm doing okay on YouTube, but Instagram and Facebook, I know they just opened up this monetization per views thing. Is that not really a way to go when it comes to getting paid for your content?
I think that's a good way to go, especially if you're in a niche like tech. They actually pay a lot on that niche as far as like AdSense on YouTube. So I think that's definitely good. I think it was probably not so much mentioned because that's kind of like something that just happens as you're growing your content, growing your viewers. But I think even like the gaming niche, that's another one that with AdSense, if you're doing that on YouTube, it pays a lot. So AdSense is definitely like very monetizable, even like finance and just different things like that.
Yeah, and Matt did mention AdSense at the beginning, but I agree, it was kind of glossed over because it's like, that's the first thing that most people kind of think about when they think about making money as a YouTuber. That and brand sponsorships. Thank you.
Hi.
So I guess my question is, because I do a bunch of other little things, like I make gaming content, I make cosplay content, and I stream, and I was wondering, when it comes to getting on these platforms and everything, should I make separate pages for separate things? Like, should I make a page for my gaming? Should I make a page just for my cosplay, or just kind of like put it all together?
Like me and you were gonna have like two different views on this one. For me, I have seen this. I have seen people have different pages dedicated to their different things that make them with their brand. I personally always been against it because I feel like I'm adding an extra step for you to then come back to find me on the real page. That's my view of it. But I have seen the other way too. So I'm wondering if I'm the old school one and not embracing the other aspect of it.
I agree with you. I feel like if you struggle with being consistent, you should not separate it. If you're good at being consistent, you can separate it. And also look at the platform. If it's on TikTok, you don't need to separate it because TikTok pushes each video out to new people. It's gonna push it out to who they think wants to see that content. But like if it's maybe like Instagram or YouTube or things like that, think about that. But again, if you struggle with being consistent, just put it on one page.
I would say it's also a question of scale. When you're at a certain, when you're on a smaller scale, I think you want to have everything together. But as you scale up, you'll see a lot of larger creators that have a page for each brand, and then they just figure out how to link everything together so that you can find them all, right? Like you look on the bottom of their YouTube, their front page, and like they'll have the different brands. But yeah, I think part of it is scale as well.
Yeah, so when you're smaller, you just bundle it all, keep it all together, let people meet you, let people build that up, and then you start building out the sub niches and sub page after you actually build up the audience and understand your audience, and then you can start separating them out.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Good afternoon, y'all. I gotta bend down a little bit. So this is more for Matt and Jasmine. So as someone who hopefully, God willing, is gonna start their law school journey soon.
Amen.
Thank you. Want to study like tax law. What advice would you give someone who wants to go about building relationships, who wants to do what y'all do of helping people with things that they don't know, so that they don't go down, pitfalls financially, things like that?
I was just gonna say, you learn a lot along the way. I believe it's really about putting yourself out there and be willing to take chances, be willing to learn, always be willing to learn. It doesn't all come to you on day one. New experiences, new client situations continue to teach me every single day and add to my arsenal of what it is that I have going on. So you're already willing to go to law school and get into law school. By the grace of God, you said you hope to make that happen soon. So I think you're already dedicated enough to make sure that you're putting yourself out there and do the hard thing. It is hard to put yourself out there, but that's really what it comes down to.
I had a mentor in law school who gave me the advice in my first year because I was really good. I went to law school, started when almost 34, and I'd done music for 10 years. I'd been on tour, and I was going to make this pivot in my life. And he said, your work is the thing that's going to speak for you, especially in a professional career like that. And so take your first year and a half, and just keep your nose in the books, and get the best grades you can, establish a reputation of yourself as somebody who takes it seriously, and then you can start worrying about networking, because then your work will, you will have people out there talking about how amazing your work is, right? There's no shortage of people out there networking and pressing the flesh and shaking hands, but there is a shortage of people who are really smart, really dedicated, and so be that person.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we might take, we're already over, but one or two more questions.
All right, so my question here is, as a small creative, you have to do a lot of this stuff yourself. You don't have agents, you don't have tax agents. If you screw up, it's going to be because you overlook something. And, especially if you have an extremely important job on top of that. So my question is, vetting, as a small creator, how do you vet through all the deals and opportunities? Because you don't want to hurt your audience, and you don't want to you don't want to promise yourself for something for free or get yourself into a pickle because you were like, well, I clicked on this email and was oh, this is AI generated everything, and you know, now your audience hates it, and now you're in this deal. Is there a resource or a certain strategy that you go along to vet through your business opportunities or deals?
It's funny because you mentioned AI as a bad thing, and I was actually going to recommend it for you in this sense.
For organization, but you know, like say it's like it's a product that's like half baked. I'm trying to say like.
So that's it. I think those are two separate things, right? I think the question you're asking is how do you make sure that the deal, without having a team, without having somebody you can talk to, how do you make sure that you're not getting screwed and you're not agreeing to something that you shouldn't be agreeing to? I think that's where you help AI and kind of go back and forth with them. So like, what does this mean? What does that mean? Explain it to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Like you could do that with AI, you know, and I think is specifically what, you know, those types of things are, you know, good for. And then your other question was more on like, you know, if I'm using AI in my actual work, the products and deliverables, that's a different type of question on what standards and what level you want to present. Because there are some places where doing AI and creative stuff is okay, and there's some where it's not. You just gotta figure out what your line is and what you want to deliver, and be transparent with that. Don't try to hide it, don't try to like, you know, make it seem like it's something that it's not. And I think that you'll find the audience that's okay with you using AI, or you'll find the audience that's okay with you not using AI. It's just, you have to do it with integrity. And be ethical with it at the end of the day. Did that answer the question?
It kind of answered the question. When I brought up AI, this meant like, you know, when you see a picture that looks all crazy or something like that.
Yeah, but again, without saying unless you got somebody you can talk to that wouldn't charge you, or maybe you just do one-offs, you know, small one-off things just so you can get some help. The next very best thing is, you know, doing that, you know, doing a Google search. You know, what does this term mean? You know, using AI to help you analyze it. Those are the better things.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
If your passion guides your brand and you're getting these like things in your inbox, how closely does it align with the brand? And if it aligns, even, you know, if it gets close, that's how you vet it. It's like, all right, this is way off. Like if I did this as El Cash grab, I'm not touching that.
Yep.
Okay, cool. That's my question.
All right, last question, and then, you know, if you wanted some of the, you know, panelists decide to stay and answer questions, they'll do that on the side. But this will be the last question. Sorry if we couldn't get to everybody else. But again, you can definitely start asking questions off the side once we're off.
Hey, how's it going? When building with a team of friends and you're getting a group together to build content, what's some advice on some red flags that you can like let us know?
My Lord.
Write everything down from the beginning, have contracts, don't rely on friendships, make sure that everything is documented. Do you feel like some energy up here on stage for this?
Oh, you don't even know the half of it.
Yeah.
So say it again, I don't think everybody heard it.
So friendships are great, and if you like your friends and you want to keep your friends, put friendship outside of business, write things down, document things, have your signatures on those things, and just be transparent with each other right from the get-go, but not just verbally, but written, like written documents, because things change. When things are small, you know, it's one thing and everybody feels one way. As things grow, not only do the people change, but the thing itself obviously changes. So the input you might need from the friends group might change. Everyone's life changes. Someone becomes a parent, someone's grieving, someone's XYZ. So you gotta make sure that you guys are aligned on who's doing what and getting what from day one before it's even anything to get or take away from it.
And revisit, you know, like start that. Set a foundation. It's okay if you didn't do it, you know, if you can do it day one, absolutely do it day one. If you haven't done it day one, do it day to day. And figure it out. And then revisit it, because to that point, things change, and it's just like, you know what, that worked for me back then, and this is the agreement that we all are on the same page, and we can all reference it. But you know what, I would like to revisit. I would like to think about how this looks now. And at that point, you have something to go back to, because if you don't, you only got he says, she says, wish, I thought that, this is my perspective, this is what I thought you said, this is what and nobody's right and nobody's wrong, but then things start happening, things start breaking, and miscommunication just continues to pile up.
And if you could have a neutral third-party person be there that's maybe not involved in the thing in and of itself, but that, like when you go notarize something, you have a witness, something like that. You don't have to make it all crazy and I have to have a witness, but just write things down.
I would say I haven't been in music for years and then now in content creation. The contract isn't the thing that's gonna ruin the friendship. The lack of the contract is the thing that's gonna ruin the friendship. Because if everybody walks into it clear-eyed, knowing what they're in for, you'll be all good at the end. But it's that fight that breaks out when you get 5 years down the line and one person feels like they've been doing all the work and the other person feels like they're just entitled to it because they were there at the beginning. It's the lack of the contract that kills the friendship.
This is across the board in every business, any type of partnership, this is a relationship thing, and that is really, really important, because when you're getting into business with people, you're getting into a relationship with them, which is different than a friendship. It's just like a friendship, it's like, oh, y'all just dating, y'all just cool, y'all we cool. There's no real commitment.
However you show up is technically okay.
It is okay, because there's no prearranged rules around that.
Yeah.
With businesses, it's totally different.
Yeah.
You have to show up in a way because there's so much commitment in a business, and somebody put one level of effort in versus another, that starts getting measured over time. Maybe in the beginning it ain't that deep, and we all happy, and you know what, that's all you can do right now. I get it, I understand, but then it piles up, and it piles up, and it piles up, and if we didn't have clear, lines and swim lanes and everything like that, and understandings, then that's when it's just like, all right, you playing me, or I deserve this, and you don't, and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And so I guarantee, look, if you have a friendship, that's the one advice that I think I would get.
So get your boys and get the crew,
Yeah.
and
Right
outside,
Right now.
right now,
Figure it out.
I want to see the whole crew talking to each other. Like, all right, here's how we're gonna do this.
Yeah.
You gotta take the lead.
Can we get some napkins from the food court?
Figure it out.
Jot
Take a
that-
picture. Jot it
I-
down. I cannot stress that enough.
I think you and I hear this, we were chatting about this a while ago, a lot of people say, no, we've known each other our whole life. No, we're not like that. No, we're not like that.
That's cool.
And yeah, I think that the point I'd love to make about that and for you to take away from this is that it's not that we're suggesting that all of a sudden your friend is gonna turn on you and not be the person you've known your whole life, or that they're, the great things about them that you are relying on and about them that's making you even wanna go into business with them. Not that those things are all of a sudden gonna change, but life changes, right? So when someone becomes a parent, it's not that they all of a sudden became a bad person that doesn't wanna do the thing that they signed up for you, but other life obligations will come along the way, and those things might be priorities, or someone's family member gets sick, whatever it might be. So I just wanna say that it's not that you can't trust your friends, that they will continue to show up with how you wanted them to show up or how you guys plan for each person to show up, but just life happens and they might not be able to. So having that down in paper, hey, you're taking 20%, there's 5 of us, 20% each, what are we gonna have each person responsible for? Maybe loosely said, what department is each person responsible for? About how much time do we think that department is gonna take? 20 hours a week, 30 hours a week, so that when it's changed or pulled back or added to, everyone has that baseline of what was initially talked about would be contributed by each person, if that makes sense.
Do it, okay? Thank you for the
Thank you
question.
so much. You guys are awesome.
All right, that ends